How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Marvel Snap Zone video. We have a new tier list this week for Conquest. It's a short one, as usual with most of the Conquest tier lists. We're going to go over the tier 1 and tier 2 lists. If you want to see the full list and all the tier 3 stuff, make sure you check out the full article. Den does a great job going over it. This is going to be a quick video today because we've seen most of these decks before, so I'm going to kind of skim through them. And normally we'll only go over the tier 1 and tier 2 decks in these lists. So that's what I'm going to do today. But really quick, I just got an affiliate link with Snap King. They were a sponsor for the SnapCon event that just happened last month. So they sent me a shirt. They have cool Marvel Snap shirts, not just emote ones, but they've got other designs as well. So I'm going to put my affiliate link in the description if you're interested in checking that out. Support me, support them. Anyways, let's talk about the list. So Tier 1, we're looking at Evolved Doomwave at the top of the list, followed by Shuri, both Sauron and Shuri Kitty, followed by Infinite She-Hulk to wrap up Tier 1, and then Tier 2, we're looking at Hela Tribunal and Move Legion. Now, for those of you who are playing Conquest, you're probably wondering what happened to Loki Collector. It's all the way down in Tier 3, and you're probably seeing it all of the time. Loki Collector makes up about 20% or above 20% of the popularity, above 20% of the decks played in Conquest currently. And I think when the percentage played is that high, there's a lot of mirror matchups. And when there's a lot of mirror matchups, it's going to push the win rate down towards 50%. And it'll push the cube rate down because every game that it's a mirror matchup, it's going to lose and win. So closer to 50% and closer to 0 cube rate. This kind of forces, with that popularity, decks that are good matchups against Loki to do better in this current meta. So decks like Doomwave, Shuri, Hela Tribunal, Infinite She-Hulk as well, they're all doing better because they're decent against these Loki decks. What's also interesting are the decks that are not on this list, not even close to being on the list, and those are Patriot, Sarah Surfer, Lockjaw, Thanos. Decks like that, those are top decks, and you see them on the ladder tier list, but not here at all because the flexibility and versatility are kind of the name of the game in Conquest. And when the play percentage of Loki Collector is so high and the matchups are unfavorable against these decks, they're just not going to make the list. But really quick, let's skim through these deck lists. You should already know how to play them. If you don't, Den has guides on all of the decks here, and he goes through in detail the kind of play style and how you should play each of them. And they're really good breakdowns for players who don't know. I skim through them for new decks that I see, just so I can get an overall idea and then go in and learn for myself. But the first deck, Evolved Doomwave, at the top of the list. It's just a solid deck. In Conquest, again, flexibility is kind of the name of the game. And this deck doesn't require getting specific cards to do what it wants. It can figure out what it wants to do, put power on board with whatever card draws you have. So it's flexible in that sense. It's not reactive. It doesn't have reactive cards as we've seen in the past, but it is very flexible. Wave is also very impactful when you're playing against decks like Infinite She-Hulk, Sarah Control, things like that want to dump a lot of cards on the last turn. Wave is just very good against that, obviously. And it puts this deck up towards the top. It's not a super simple deck to play, but it is fairly straightforward in what it's trying to do. And again, very flexible. So not surprised here that it's at the top of the list. Give it a shot if you haven't. Doomwave is back. It's a fun deck. Next up, we have Shuri Sauron and Shuri Kitty. We've seen this quite a bit in the last few weeks. It's been at least, if not tier 1, near tier 1, but it's a very linear deck. The game plan is very straightforward, at least the Sauron version, and it has the ability to go tall, very tall in 2 locations, which makes it very effective against Loki decks. Once again, I'm not going to go over too much. You've seen this list before. It's very susceptible to Shang-Chi. It does have armor in there, but with the current lists that are topping the meta right now, there's not a lot of Shang-Chi being seen, so this deck doesn't have a lot to worry about. Now the Shuri Kitty list is a little bit better at dodging cards like Shang-Chi. I like this list better. I think it's more flexible in being able to change up your game plan as the game progresses. Even after you play Shuri and then play something into that Shuri lane, you're not committed to that lane. So you can move things around with Vision. The list that I run doesn't run Captain Marvel, but you can move things around with Vision. If you get Kitty Pryde out, you get Hulkbuster on it, and you double that power with Shuri. Obviously, you can play that again on turn 6 in a different lane. So again, the flexibility is there with this deck, and I like this list a lot better. Next up, we're looking at Infinite She-Hulk. Once again, we've seen this before. Not going to talk about it too much. One thing I will say is if Doomwave becomes more popular than it is right now, you're going to see a decline in the effectiveness of this deck. Obviously, with this deck, you're looking to dump a bunch of cards on turn 6. And Leech is there to turn off things like Legion and location disruptors for your magic so that you can play them on turn 6. However, with Wave really disrupts what you're trying to do, and is a pretty big problem with this deck. Overall, still, though, a very solid list, a very flexible list, and still pretty successful according to the statistics in Conquest. Next up, we're stepping into tier 2 with Hela Tribunal. Again, I say this every week, I'm not a fan of this deck. I'm not a fan of this play style. It's predictable. It requires specific draws. However, it is effective against Loki decks because it kind of just goes big in all 3 lanes. So it's a good deck, and in the current meta with all the Loki decks around, it's a good deck to play. Nothing has changed with the deck list. It's the same exact deck list. Next up, we have Move Legion, which really looks a lot like the Doomwave deck with just a different package without the high Evo package and with like a Move Craven package with it. The list that I was playing doesn't play Nightcrawler. It plays Kitty Pryde to buff up the Angela as much as possible. However, this is apparently the most successful list. It's still not the most popular. The most popular being the one that the most popular being a deck that was closer to the pre-nerf, according to Den. I don't have the statistics in front of me. A solid list. It's trying to adapt Doomwave, and I think the high Evo Doomwave is just a lot better and more consistent. Doesn't require to have things line up quite as well with the pieces that you draw, but apparently still pretty good. It's at the end of tier 2. Before I wrap up the video though, I just wanted to scroll down to show you guys the Loki collector list. This is the most popular deck in Conquest currently. It was very popular in ladder as well, but currently in Conquest, this is the most popular deck. So I figured I'd just show you guys the list if you haven't tried it yet. Snowguard is finally a top, not necessarily top if we're talking about Conquest, but in ladder is in a top meta deck. So kind of interesting. It is a fun deck to play. It has some wild games, wild turns. You can get collector pretty big. When you get discounted cards with Loki and you have Quinjet out, just the stuff you can do is insane, and you can't do that with normal decks. So give this deck a shot. And that's it for the Conquest list. It was a short one this week. Told you it was going to be a short video. I haven't played much Conquest myself recently. I was on vacation for the first week, and then I had to catch up on ladder, so I just hit Infinite a couple days ago, maybe yesterday. And so I'm excited to jump in a little bit of Conquest. I think ladder might still be my priority, but I have to get those mystery variants. So I'm going to be trying some of these decks, probably evolve Doomwave. Go check out my YouTube channel if you haven't. My name is Savage Yeti. I have my own channel. I do Marvel Snap stuff, bundle breakdowns, all those kinds of things. And make sure you subscribe to Marvel Snap. So as usual, if you love all things Marvel Snap, make sure you like and subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.